It's a Christmas Sunday morning, and here again is Jane Pauley.
In just a few minutes, a holiday treat. Darren Criss, beloved star of television's Glee, helps us celebrate Christmas with the Young People's Chorus of New York City. But to begin, we've asked Califasane to take note of Chris's show business journey.
So when you're not on stage, you can walk a couple blocks up north to this piano bar.
Of course, man. Keep the music going, you know? I think the expression goes, life is a cabaret.
37-year-old Darren Criss is a star on Broadway and a regular at piano bars.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song.
When he's in LA, it's Tramp Stamp Granny's, where he and his wife Mia are the owners.
It's kind of a beautiful little Hollywood tale, you know. She slings the drinks and I sling the tunes. Sweet Caroline.
One rule in a piano bar, play the hits.
You know, just a small town girl, which is also just a means to don't stop believing.
He had his first hit at the University of Michigan.
When you were in college, you're involved in a musical that I guess is the first musical to go viral, pretty much, ever?
I don't know. I guess we'll let the YouTube historians sort of decide the validity of that. This was a very interesting moment in time, if you're speaking about a Harry Potter musical.
A Harry Potter musical.
Yeah, that really did kind of change my life.
Can't believe how cruel they are, and it stings my lightning scar.
Criss starred as Harry Potter in an unauthorized student show based on the books that became a YouTube sensation in 2009.
That would kind of set me on the path to where I am now.
You take a sort of a detour on your way to Broadway, which is you become a TV star.
Glee was happening at the time, and I went out for it like hundreds of thousands of other people in my situation at that time, and I happened to book it.
Excuse me. Hi, can I ask you a question? I'm new here.
My name is Blaine.
He played Blaine Anderson and quickly became a fan favorite.
I owe my tenure on that show to the subcultural fan base army that we had gathered from the Potter stuff.
Let's go all the way tonight, no regrets.
People see you on Glee singing a Katy Perry song and kind of lose their minds.
Yeah. There were all these things that were teed up before I got there that you simply cannot control.
Criss went on to win an Emmy and a Golden Globe for his portrayal of the serial killer Andrew Cunanan.
No.
You're due on stage in a few hours,
I know, I should get ready.
The packing is done, I'm finally hitting the road.
Now he plays an obsolete robot named Oliver in a new musical, Maybe Happy Ending. It's one of the most acclaimed shows on Broadway. The New York Times calls it joyful, heartbreaking, and super smart.
This show begins with a song, which is the question the show posits. Why love? Why do we do it? Right. If we know that loving something enters you in a contract that has an inexorable back end, which is the loss of something. Yeah. So why do we do that if we know that that's going to happen?
What if they catch us and erase our hard drives?
Criss says that this show came along at the perfect time. He and his wife Mia have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and earlier this year they welcomed a baby son.
Does this feel like the best year of your life?
Well, it certainly is a blessed one. I've had some extraordinary years in my life, and I think this has been a certainly exciting time.
He's had some hard years, too. In 2020, his father Bill died at 78 from a heart condition. In 2022, his brother Chuck died at 36 by suicide.
I don't necessarily think of my own experience with those people specifically in my life that I've lost, but I do think about the feeling of loss, the sadness and emptiness and loneliness that yields, because we all feel it, you know, but the things that move me in life and in this piece are not the darkness of the loss, but the Herculean grace that it takes to be resilient in the inevitable truth of that.
Sitting by your side as the day drifts by.
When he thinks about that, Darren Criss can't help but sing.
I count my lucky stars every day. I'm running out of, there's too many. They're still showing up. I'm doing CBS Sunday Morning.
That's the peak.
Yeah. It's Califa and Darren. Everybody on CBS Sunday Morning. Yeah, yeah. Ay, candela, candela, candela me quemo ahí.
Ay, candela, candela, candela me quemo ahí.
Martha Teichner this morning is taking us on a colorful journey to Old Havana for a preview of the new Broadway musical, Buena Vista Social Club.
De Alto Cedro voy para Marcané, llego a Puerto voy para Mayarín.
Remember Buena Vista Social Club, the album? Even if you don't. Now there's Buena Vista Social Club, the musical. An exuberant blast from the past. Old Cuban music for a new audience.
There is a music studio in Old Havana.
The Broadway version is a stand-in for the city's corroded grandeur, and for the studio, where in 1996, a group of old, mostly forgotten Cuban musicians recorded the album.
What follows is the story of a band, not ours, though we will do our best. Some of what follows is true. Some of it only feels true.
The true part. The real person this actor is playing. Juan de Marcos Gonzalez. Look, there he is during rehearsals. Juan de Marcos had already located and brought together the old musicians before music producers Ry Cooder and Nick Gold showed up in Havana. When their plan to make an album pairing Cuban and West African performers fell through, they went with Plan B and recorded with the group Juan de Marcos had assembled.
I was so happy because they were my idols. I grew up, listening to their music, and then suddenly I was the band leader.
Did any of the people involved, including you, have any idea that what became Buena Vista Social Club would be something big?
No. They became pop stars. It was like an unbelievable thing.
The unexpected and irresistible phenomenon that resulted is the subject of the Oscar-nominated 1999 Wim Wenders documentary.
Well, it was just ubiquitous. I mean, you would hear this music everywhere.
Music journalist Judy Cantor Navas is a Substack contributor and the author of Cuba on Record.
To say that, yes, we're listening to this old Cuban music that is suddenly selling millions of albums seemed like something that was very unlikely.
Why do you think people love the music so much?
I think not only this, but Cuban music has really appealed to so many different kinds of people. They say that it has, the perfect combination of the Afro-Cuban rhythms and the Spanish melodies that came together in Cuba. It's just this very infectious music that gets in your soul.
It wasn't just the music they loved. It was who the musicians were, the improbable last act of their careers. The album won a Grammy and has sold more than 8 million copies worldwide.
And they were so happy, because they came back to the stage. Because if you are a musician and you are an artist, you are always an artist, And even when you are retired, you have this small candle in your heart.
Omara Portuondo was 67. Ibrahim Ferrer was 70. Other band members were as old as 90. They began touring the world.
No quiero.
Even even singing to me for a Sunday morning story 25 years ago. I still have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not asleep and dreaming, Ferrer says. I never thought I'd have so much success. The play tells the imagined origin story of the musicians, of their careers, their personal struggles.
But I know how this story goes.
With hints of romance, decades before their fame late in life.
What's this place called?
The Buena Vista Social Club.
I'm Cuban American. I was born and raised in Miami, but my parents and my family's Cuban. And so for me, what brought me to this was the music. It was music that I was raised around my entire life.
Marco Ramirez wrote the Broadway show. He was 14 when the album came out.
This is a moment of intense pride, of us realizing that the world cared about our music and that these songs that I was used to hearing on my grandfather's little yellow Sony boombox above the washing machine, these were songs that suddenly the whole world cared about. That meant everything to me.
I guess I just dreamed that one day with the right record, we might remind the world that Mozart has got nothing on us.
And I was just obsessed with this album. I kept listening to it on repeat. Something about the lyrics spoke to me. I learned the lyrics without knowing what I was talking about, because Swahili is my first language.
This was in Kenya, where Sahim Ali, the director of the show, grew up. His father, an airline pilot, brought the album home.
I knew nothing about their stories, absolutely nothing. The first time I knew about the stories was reading Marco's script. That's what excited me about this musical. People are going to know about them now in a way that young people like me never had a chance to.
Brought to life on a Broadway stage. The old songs as they were played in the 1940s and 50s at the actual Buena Vista Social Club, a members-only Havana nightclub for working-class black Cubans. It was shut down after Fidel Castro came to power in 1959. The events of the Cuban Revolution lurk at the edges of the show.
It's not your fault the world made us take sides, until one day there were only two types of Cubans: those who stayed and those who left.
Playing yesterday's Cuban music on Broadway, some of today's finest Cuban musicians, most of whom now live outside Cuba, because making a living there is tough.
The people are going to see the real Cuba. They are going to get a piece of our country when they attend the musical. We have nothing in our country. We don't have oil, we don't have gold, but we have the music, beautiful ladies, good coffee, the best cigars, and the best rum. That's what, and the music, which is the most important thing, like food for us.
Served up on Broadway, a feast.
All right, fine. From my perspective, truth be told, yeah, selling would be great. No more blowback with my career. I'll take my money. 5 years' time, I'd like to be free of this company and the Roy name.
It's Sunday Morning on CBS. And here again is Jane Pauley.
You might recognize Sarah Snook as Shiv Roy in the hugely popular series Succession. A tough act to follow, which, as Faith Staley will show us, might explain the theatrical challenge Snook's just taken on. Curtain going up on Sarah Snook.
Thank you. Sarah Snook is setting the record straight.
Would you please explain how to pronounce your name correctly?
Oh, yeah, Snook.
Everyone thinks it's Snook.
I know, well, I mean, yeah. Because it looks like look, or book, or chook, but it's Snook.
If only I could remain always young, and the picture could grow old.
On Broadway this spring, she's neither Snook nor Snook, but 26 completely different people.
I would give my soul for that.
The 37-year-old Australian is chameleonic in Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray.
A portrait like this would set you far above all the young artists of England.
I know you will laugh at me, replied Basil Hallward, but I really can't exhibit it.
Changing accents, wigs, and gender to tell the story of a man who makes a spiritual bargain to appear eternally young, while his portrait reflects the hideousness of his actions.
This show has suspense, it has horror, it has humor.
Yeah.
And it also has a lot of heart. People don't often credit Oscar Wilde with something heartfelt.
Yeah, there's a lot of pathos.
Sarah Snook for
It's a performance for which she won an Olivier, the British Theatre Award, during the show's run in London's West End.
I think there's a lot of empathy for the human condition. I think, seeing the soul as a real thing and as a part of your body, personality, spiritual makeup that one might need to protect and look after.
Oscar Wilde published the story, his only novel, in 1890. Victorian critics called it poisonous and morally depraved. Now, almost a century and a half later, the tale feels resonant.
In this play, moral decrepitude is conflated with aging as well.
Yeah.
As if they're equal sins in a way.
It's an interesting time to come to that story, I think, now, where we have such an image-based culture and ability to construct a visual image to sell to anyone online, on Instagram. And in this, part of the reason of playing multiple different characters is about choosing which mask is the right mask, which is the public-private mask that we show of ourselves.
You make a very handsome man.
And I just saw the image of me as Lord Henry up there.
Yeah.
And was like, that'll be a really interesting experience for people to walk past and go, oh, that's Shiv from Succession. What the heck? She got a moustache on.
That recognition is something Snook is finally used to. After making her name known abroad, she's now beloved by American audiences as Siobhan Roy, the cutthroat billionaire she played as the scion of a family empire on the TV series Succession.
You're a squalid little backroom deal. He blackmailed you, didn't he?
Shiv.
No. If he takes over, I'll sell my shares.
The saltiness of her Shiv garnered Snook legions of fans and several awards.
You originally didn't want to audition for Shiv because you said you couldn't relate to her being beautiful and wealthy.
Yeah, there was nothing in myself that I could see as reflective or accessible in that character.
Like Dorian Gray, Shiv is an anti-hero, and Snook's been drawn to those complicated characters for a long time.
I watched a ton of Disney films when I was a kid, and all I wanted to be was Ursula and Scar, all the villains, all the people who had more complexity to why they were that in the first place.
Snook discovered that complexity for herself during one of her first acting gigs back home in Adelaide.
I used to do fairy parties, yeah. It was such a good training ground because kids, man, they tell you if they're not interested.
Were you heckled?
Yeah, fly. Let me see you fly, come on. Why can't you fly? Show us.
The reason I will not exhibit Dorian Gray's picture is that I am afraid that I have shown in it the secret of my own soul.
I arrived at drama school at the National Institute of Dramatic Art the year that Sarah had just left.
Can I do one thing with you first?
Kip Williams is the director and adapter of Dorian Gray.
And there was this word around school that there was this incredible red-headed actress. So my radar as a director was up for Sarah from the beginning.
Much more than a model or a sitter, he likes me.
Williams knew that he wanted to collaborate with Snook and felt that a single actor could embody all the facets of Wilde's legendary work.
Oscar Wilde talks about this notion that life is one grand act of theatre, and that people are always in a form of performance where they are either revealing or concealing parts of themselves. So the form of this piece, one performer playing all of these 26 characters, is an expression of that idea.
It is with technology that Williams illuminates humanity. He calls it cinetheater, combining live performance with cameras, large screens, and pre-recorded videos.
I had intended never to enter your house again, Gray, but you said it was a matter of life and death.
Yes, it is a matter of life and death, Alan.
Is it fair to call this a one-woman show?
I think it is definitely a one-person show, but it is also paradoxically an ensemble piece. The camera team and the crew are kind of like her co-performers. They dance with her on stage, literally in one moment.
A dance that feels intimately familiar to Snook.
The feeling of a camera really close to you and not having that disrupt your train of thought or your flow, I think that's something that was really useful in Succession, because we kind of absorbed them as extra characters.
Snook has a few extra characters in her own life, too. She got married during the pandemic and has a young daughter. But as it turns out, Sarah Snook has not bitten off more than she can chew.
So this is your Broadway debut.
Yeah.
Is there pressure off since you've already had such a successful run?
Actually, one thing that Kip said on the first day of rehearsals was, you can only eat an elephant one spoonful at a time. I was like, okay. Yeah, sure, okay, I'll do it that way.
Do you think you've eaten the whole thing by now?
No, now I've got to eat the Broadway part of the elephant.
Blow a kiss, take a bow, honey, everything's coming up roses.
That's the great Ethel Merman performing one of the signature songs from Gypsy, a classic American musical almost from the day it premiered, nearly 70 years ago. This week, a new revival opens on Broadway, and we asked Mo Rocca to help us figure out why this particular stage mother seems to never get old.
Here she is, boys! Here she is, world! Here's Rose!
She's the mother of all stage mothers. Rose, a single mother hell-bent on turning her two young daughters into stars during the waning days of vaudeville.
So let me entertain you, and we'll have a real good time, yes, sir!
But in the musical Gypsy, she gets top billing.
Have an egg roll.
Rosalind Russell played her in the movie. Bette Midler in the TV version.
Whatever we do.
And on stage, where it all started, she's been played by some of Broadway's greats.
I had a dream.
From Ethel Merman in 1959 to Patti LuPone in 2008.
You'll be swell, you'll be great. Gonna have the whole world on my plate.
And opening this week,
Starting now.
6-time Tony Award winner Audra McDonald will take on one of musical theater's most demanding roles.
I am her mother. It's a high gear the entire time, and instead of someone sweeping me up in the tornado, I'm the tornado.
You're the tornado.
That's living for some people, for some drum people, I suppose.
It's a part that's been compared to Shakespeare's King Lear.
What Lear is to classical actors, that is what Rose is to musical theater. It's the Everest, it's the summit.
Eric Neer is cultural editor for the Hudson Review.
It's great.
It's an impossible role in a way, and yet every great actress, every great musical theater actress wants to test herself with it.
You can climb the tallest tree. I'll be there somehow.
Everest is there for a reason. People want to climb it, right? I mean, it's there because it's majestic and it's incredible, and people like, I want to figure out if I can get up there. And that's what I'm trying to do.
The musical was inspired by the memoir of Gypsy Rose Lee, one of the world's most famous striptease artists. Here she is on Edward R. Murrow's Person to Person.
But what do you recall as your worst experience in show business?
Well, there was that time I fell off the runway at Minsky's.
But the musical's creators, including writer Arthur Lawrence, weren't interested in telling her story.
The really interesting thing about the show Gypsy is that it's not really about Gypsy Rose Lee or even her sister June, who became a very well-known actress, June Havoc. It's about their mother, a tyrannical, insane, fabulous woman who pushed these two young girls onto the stage.
It's Rose who volunteers her older daughter to perform a striptease for the first time.
All you'll do is walk around the stage in time to the music and drop a shoulder strap at the end. You're a lady.
Were audiences shocked by the idea of a mother who would push her daughter to basically become a stripper?
It's still shocking today, I think, when we see it.
Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington.
Before Gypsy, stage mothers were largely played for laughs, as they still are today.
Brooke, is your mother speaking for you? Do you not want to dance?
Think reality shows like Dance Moms.
Get away from me!
What really differentiates Gypsy is that it's the first work in any genre that I can think of that takes this comic character of the pushy stage mother and then does this psychological deep dive into it.
Rose? How are Louise and I supposed to live?
You might get a job, dear.
I have a job, dear, and I do it damn well. My daughters are my job, and I got 2 of them.
I admire the ferocity.
This revival is directed by 5-time Tony Award winner George C. Wolfe.
I think it's about not enough. People living with not enough money, not enough space, not enough love, not enough approval, not enough success. And it becomes this dynamic of people wanting that thing, desperately wanting that thing that is just beyond their reach.
Madam, do you realize you are absolutely... I do, Uncle Jocko. You know...
The question that looms over any production, why does this woman drive her children so hard?
So tell me now, what did I do it for?
And ultimately away from her.
I thought you did it for me, Mama.
I think she is a dedicated mother. I think she is a fiercely protective mother. I think she is a mother who does not realize that the umbilical cord has been cut. I don't see Rose as a monster mother at all.
You don't?
No.
Is she in this for her kids or for herself?
I don't think she can differentiate between the two.
I had a dream about you, baby.
Rose may stop at nothing in pursuit of her dream, but the director and star of this production, the first on Broadway in which mother and daughters are played by black actors, say there's a good reason.
It's not a selfish dream. It's not a my dream. It's a wonderful dream for me and my kids.
Which is so interesting, too, then, why the society has the audacity to say, how dare she have that dream for her kids? I did what society laid out for me. No. And look where it got me. No. My kids are just supposed to go to school like other girls and cook and clean and sit and die. And especially that feels like that hits hard, too, as a black woman saying, no, they're not gonna do that.
It may all sound pretty serious for a musical, but did we mention there are some real showstoppers in Gypsy?
If you wanna thump it, thump it with a trumpet.
And an adorable pooch.
Someplace, if you could just hold Chowsy for me. That's short for chow mein, Mom.
She's really, really sweet. We saw a lot of dogs. It took a while before we found the right one. No one's watching you when they're on stage. That much I do know.
Mary Todd Lincoln's time as First Lady of the United States ended 160 years ago when her husband, President Abraham Lincoln, was assassinated. But a comedy version of her story, yes, it's a comedy, is now a hit on Broadway. Mo Rocca has our tickets.
For God's sake, Mary, how would it look for the First Lady of the United States to be flitting about the stage right now in the ruins of war?
How would it look? Sensational!
Oh, Mary may be Broadway's most unlikely offering this season.
Why are you so impossible?
Why am
A wildly over-the-top, not at all historically accurate look at First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln, written by and starring Cole Escola.
Hi, picking up tickets for the big play?
Oh, Mary is a broad comedy about Mary Todd Lincoln and her secret passion of becoming a cabaret star. Meanwhile, her husband Abe is just wrapping up the Civil War.
Right.
And so he's more concerned with keeping the country together.
No, it's inappropriate. We're at war.
With who?
The South!
Of what?
It's not a revival. It has no movie stars.
Well, speak for yourself, Mo.
And it's a smash hit.
The thing I love more than anything
Don't you
on
dare
earth
say it!
is cabaret!
It's breaking box office records. What does that say?
Inflation is high. That's all it says.
And that ticket prices are outrageous.
And that ticket prices are outrageous.
So when did you come up with the idea?
In 2009, I sent an email to myself that said, what if Abraham Lincoln's assassination wasn't such a bad thing for Mary Todd? You know, like Mary starting over, like, now I'm single, I can date, you know.
When you keep me off the stage, you make the whole world miserable.
But this fever dream Mary remained just a dream for years.
I loved this idea so much, I didn't want it to get on paper and for it to disappoint me. To disappoint me, not just the audience, but like me. There are certain ideas that you're just like, oh, I don't want to plant this seed because what if it's an ugly flower?
Escola eventually wrote the play. Oh, Mary opened to rapturous reviews downtown, quickly moved uptown to Broadway, and just this week earned 5 Tony nominations, including 2 for 38-year-old Escola, for Best Play and Best Actor.
Where to? Broadway.
It's all a long way from rural Oregon, where Escola was raised. The family had little money, with a Vietnam veteran father, Escola says, who suffered from mental illness.
When I was maybe 5 years old, my father chased us out of the home with a shotgun. He was having some sort of alcoholic, manic break and thought that there were people after him. And so he chased my mother, my brother, and I out of the trailer, and then we moved out and didn't come back.
The family moved in with Cole's grandmother.
Then her and I shared a bedroom, and I remember that's when she taught me to read.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, and she was in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, so she would repeat stories a lot, but I loved them. I loved her stories. I realize now, when she would tell these stories, we were like meeting in the middle of her memory. Like she was living out the fantasy of her childhood, and I was also living out my fantasy of being a young girl on a farm in Alberta.
And you didn't mind that she was repeating the stories?
No. Because she would remember certain details in a new telling or like leave something out, and then I got to be like, you know, and you were wearing a dress, right, Grandma?
And is it right that she gave you a Barbie when you were 5?
Yeah, she gave me my first Barbie. It just completely took me at face value when I was doing something that wasn't what boys were supposed to do.
Her understanding proved prescient. Escola now uses they-them pronouns. For those who don't understand and want to understand, would you explain why you use they-them pronouns?
I have always felt not male, not female. And, you know, it's funny because recently I saw photos of me on Instagram, the comments were like, what is that? Like, that's not a man. Well, it sure as hell ain't a woman either. And I was like, exactly. Like, you do get it.
Likewise, Escola's comedic identity has never been in doubt. I mean, comedically, have you always done your own thing? Or
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So there was never a time where you thought, I need to be more like this person to make people respond to me?
No. It would be like trying to speak German when I don't actually know any German. It has to make me laugh in order for it to even have a chance of making someone else laugh.
Escola began performing in community theater back in Oregon and eventually scraped together the money to make it to New York. Okay. So it was New York or bust?
It was New York or bust.
At first attending college and living at the 92nd Street Y. It was a short stint. Why were you here only 9 months?
I had to drop out because they wouldn't let me take out any more loans. I guess I was so poor that they were like, you'll never be able to pay this back. I felt like there was something wrong with me that I couldn't afford to go to school. That's the thing that makes me the most angry about being poor, is that just this innate sense that it's a moral failing or an innate thing that's broken in you.
Escola eventually did make it back to New York to stay.
Puka introduced me to the world of dogfighting and death metal.
Gaining a fan base with online videos.
No, I knew there was something you all were hiding from me.
And then on TV, playing a range of deranged yet delightful characters.
Hey, you're glowing. I want whatever you've taken, in addition to whatever I've already taken.
And then, along came Mary.
The only thing I care about in the whole world.
The children.
Ooh, no.
You don't come to see this show and go, oh, there were layers and layers of development people that were saying, no, you've got to tweak it for this audience and do this for that audience.
No, there is something special about the fact that I wrote this for me and my friends and for my audience that I've had in downtown venues and stuff. And the fact that it's successful, I don't know, it makes it that much sweeter. It really does.
What do I see? That's the question I'm most afraid of. One that asks me what I'm really made of.
That's Meryl Streep in the film Death Becomes Her. An updated theatrical version of the movie is now on Broadway, which, as Mo Rocca explains, is one of the latest examples of a relatively new trend, from screen to stage.
I just want you to know one thing, Hal. You brought this on yourself.
The 1992 cult film Death Becomes Her, about the intense rivalry of two women and their quest for eternal youth, is notable both for its Oscar-winning visual effects.
Your whole outlook just suddenly changes.
And its cast of A-listers. Okay, so Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, Isabella Rossellini. I mean, these are three very...
Up-and-comers.
Yeah, I'm sorry, who?
They were our understudies in our previous Broadway shows, yeah.
In fact, these are three of the stars of the Broadway musical version of Death Becomes Her.
You could get really hung up on the fact that some of the greatest actresses of all time played our roles.
I'll pause a scene to make you stare. I'll take the trip from here to there.
Megan Hilty inhabits the Meryl Streep role of Madeline Ashton, an actress of a certain age.
But the thing is, we're not recreating their performances. We're recreating this story.
Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child takes on the role of a mysterious sorceress, played by Isabella Rossellini in the movie. She's actually come to see it, right?
Yeah. She did come to see it.
What was that like?
I did not know that I would feel kind of like
one of those wobbly things at the car dealer. My body just kind of left itself.
It's been fun, but we gotta go. I think I'm done, better hit the road.
And two-time Tony nominee Jennifer Simard, in the role of Helen Sharp, played by Goldie Hawn, believes the movie is a natural as a Broadway musical.
The dark humor in the show lends itself to a musical because it's very dramatic. The movie's dramatic, and so it's perfect for stage.
I'm gonna have you back and dropped in a ditch.
It's almost operatic. It's so heightened that it's perfect fodder for a musical.
Director Christopher Gattelli knew that a successful transfer to the stage meant translating memorable moments from the movie.
Hurry up, you wimp!
Like the spectacular tumble Meryl Streep takes down an ornate staircase.
We spent weeks in a room with a staircase, throwing mannequins down the stairs, throwing balls with hair down the stairs, throwing, like, if you could throw it down a flight of stairs, we literally did it.
The solution? A fall guy, in this case an Olympic gymnast, does the stunt for Hilty.
It really excited me because he does this feat every night, no wires. It's literally like a human going down the staircase, kind of free fall.
Judging from its response, the audience relishes being in on the joke.
It feels like an ocean of waves of laughter. Most of those huge waves are in response to how things have been translated from the movie to the stage. I think it's a laughter of respect that we got it right. Like, they were probably wondering, how are they going to do that? And we did. Yeah.
Drink that potion, and you'll never grow even one day older.
Death Becomes Her is just the latest in a long line of Hollywood movies turned into Broadway musicals. But the traffic used to move in the opposite direction. Plays like The Philadelphia Story.
Please don't go, Mr. Connor. As a writer, this ought to be right up your street.
Don't miss a word.
And stage musicals like The Sound of Music were turned into hit movies.
A drop of golden sun.
Back then, movies were rarely turned into Broadway shows.
I think Broadway felt that the Hollywood source material was second rate, that it was kind of low rent, and not really worthy of the theater on Broadway.
Lawrence Maslon is a professor in the graduate acting program at New York University.
That started to change in the 50s when you had better movies, frankly, in the 40s. And one of the first Broadway musicals based on a screenplay is Silk Stockings, which is based on Billy Wilder's Ninotchka. That's not too shabby a movie.
Still, if a movie made it to Broadway, most likely its title did not. For example, the film All About Eve became the musical Applause. Then along came Disney, with movie titles that were major draws for theatergoers, and a trickle of Hollywood to Broadway adaptations became a roar.
The Lion King, when it opened, was such a theatrical reinvention of something that it captures the imagination to this day.
I mean, I have to say, I nominate the Lion King adaptation as the biggest risky move and one that just paid off.
You know, the proof is in the pudding because the film of Lion King, since it's been released, has made slightly under $1 billion worldwide. The stage version, which is making money even as you and I are talking, has made more than $12 billion.
The Lion King illustrated how finding the perfect balance between the familiar and new is essential.
The Addams Family was a musical a few years back. What's more well known about the Addams Family than their signature song? And they purposely, when they started in Chicago, didn't want to use it. They were like, no, we're our own thing. And people started walking away at intermission with these long faces.
And I completely get it. Had I been in the audience without that da-da-da-da, bum, bum, I would have rioted.
Right.
For the record, yes, the producers ended up adding the theme. In the case of Death Becomes Her, a story about aging that hasn't aged well, some rewrites were in order. In the movie, Streep's and Hahn's characters rip each other new ones in pursuit of a slouch played by Bruce Willis.
I will not speak to you till you put your head on straight.
I think a stage version of Death Becomes Her allows the creative team to take somewhat dated, misogynistic material and cut and paste it or tailor it a little bit so that it's palatable.
Mo, I really should push you if we're being authentic.
Jennifer Simard and Megan Hilty believed that focusing on their characters' friendship was key.
If you just hate someone, you cut them out. Yeah, what is that phrase? The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference, and we are not indifferent to one another. Yeah. And ultimately, we do discover how much we love each other.
The formula seems to be working. Michelle Williams can sense it from the stage during the opening number.
I love feeling the energy of the audience, and I'm able to go back and tell people, it's a good one. It's a good one. We've got a good one.
How was I to know there was a party going on? There was a splishing and a splash, feeling with the feeling, moving and a grooving, rocking and a rolling.
It's Sunday Morning on CBS, and here again is Jane Pauley.
That's one of the songs that helped launch entertainer Bobby Darin's career. Darren would go on to record some of the most beloved hits of the 50s and 60s. His colorful yet tragic story is the subject of the new Broadway musical. We hear all about it from Mo Rocca.
A man knows a moment, one wonderful moment.
Bobby Darin was a major pop star, a singer, dancer, musician, and an Oscar nominee. He was the entertainer who did it all, except Broadway.
Somewhere beyond the sea.
Until now.
Waiting for me. I know beyond a doubt.
He was at the height of his powers when he was on the floor of a nightclub with the audience in the palm of his hand.
Tony Award winner Jonathan Groff plays the icon of the late 1950s and 60s in the musical Just in Time. For Darren, a live audience was oxygen. So too for Groff.
You can feel this vibration between performer and audience member is, to me, the most essential thing to ignite in the telling of his story.
It's taken 7 years and a whole lot of sweat to bring the show to Broadway. The casting of Jonathan Groff, beloved for his roles on stage and as Kristoff in the Frozen movies, might not seem obvious. Groff grew up on a horse farm in Pennsylvania Mennonite country. Darren was a scrappy Italian kid from the Bronx.
Who did you like listening to when you were growing up?
Okay, so the first thing is I'm in 4th or 5th grade, on the computer or Nintendo in the basement, blasting Ethel Merman, Annie Get Your Gun.
Right, so this is the 1990s,
yes,
probably?
Yeah, the 1990s.
You're playing something from the 1940s.
Exactly.
Likewise, Bobby Darin was an old soul, says his son, Dodd Darin.
He admired, he loved, he respected the old-timers. He loved that era of show business. That's what he related to.
That may have had something to do with the woman who raised him.
Polly, his mother, was an old vaudevillian, and she nurtured him and said, you can't play stickball in the street, and you can't roughhouse with kids because he was frail and sickly, but you can learn to sing, you can learn to dance, you can learn to play piano, and it opened a whole world.
Frail and sickly was no exaggeration. Born Walden Robert Casado, Darren suffered several bouts of rheumatic fever as a child, permanently damaging his heart. When he was a boy, he overheard a family doctor say that he wouldn't live past his teenage years.
Put yourself in that position. So he was ambitious, he was driven, he was always on the go. He was trying to jam it all in because he knew he didn't have time.
A sword of Damocles hanging
Indeed.
over him.
I say that a lot, exact term.
With no time to waste, he began writing songs, and at 22, Bobby Darin made waves with his recording of Splish Splash.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Long about a Saturday night. Oh, well, a rubbed up, just relaxing in the tub, thinking everything was all right.
Not one to play it safe, for his second album in 1959, Darren took a dark ballad from the German three-penny opera and made it swing.
You know that shot back with his teeth.
When my dad took Mac the Knife before it was released and had Dick Clark listen to it, he said, "Why are you doing this? This is gonna bomb."
Tell me, could that someone be old Mac the Knife?
It won the Grammy for Record of the Year and became the biggest hit of Darren's career. The next year, he was on his way to Italy to make his motion picture debut opposite America's sweetheart, Sandra Dee.
Isn't that strange?
What?
Your pulse, it suddenly started to race.
Hit it right off. She hated me and I loved her, and that was it.
The teen idol married the teen movie star in December of 1960 and welcomed their son Dodd a year later. You wrote, "My father made his destiny, destiny made my mother." What did you mean by that?
Well, my mom went through a lot. Never really wanted fame. She really didn't crave it. It just sort of happened. Unlike my dad, who loved performing, loved show business.
Dee was looking for a home life, says Dodd Darren, but Bobby Darren wasn't ready to slow down. The marriage ended after 6 years. Darren never stopped playing the clubs.
Is it true that Sammy Davis Jr. said that your father was the one person he wouldn't want to have to follow?
Absolutely true. And my dad idolized Sammy.
I thought he was so terrific, I phoned him and told him.
It's a friend!
The feeling was mutual, as seen in this 1959 broadcast of This Is Your Life.
We were exchanging ideas back and forth. You know, I'd be doing a move, and in Washington, D.C., a girl said, "You're stealing from Bobby Darren."
Also featured during the episode, Nina, the woman Darren thought was his sister. But almost a decade later, he would learn a long-held family secret. Nina was in fact Bobby's mother, having given birth to him out of wedlock as a teenager, which made Polly, the woman he thought was his mother, his grandmother.
He was never the same. He said that his whole life was a lie. He was like a fraud. It's just devastating. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it.
Looking at that tape today, says Dodd Darren, it all seems obvious.
That's a mother's love.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's not a sister. Okay,
Yes.
so that's the adulation of, it's just my son, but you can't say it.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Charles Maffey. Nina and Charles of Lake Hiawatha, New Jersey.
So you were 7 years old when your father found out. Can you remember a change in your father from that time?
Yes. I'm not going to say it's directly attributed to that incident. I'm sure that's part of it. But he got into the Bob Darren stage. You know, he took off his toupee, no more tuxedo, started doing folk music, protest music, writing music, and dropped out of show business for a while. And that was some of the best times I had with him. He was a regular dude. We were up in Big Sur in a trailer, hanging out, and yeah, he let his hair down, if you will. It was good times.
Come and sing a simple song of freedom. Sing it like you never sang before.
In December of 1973, Bobby Darren's heart finally gave out. He was 37. Dodd had just turned 12. Now 63, Dodd Darren is grateful
Just in time.
that with the new Broadway show, a new generation can learn the story of his father.
It's so beautiful that all these years later, he's been gone.
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years. Yeah. We're here talking about him. We're remembering him. He did something right.
Thank you very much. Good night. Have a good life. Move the shark, baby. That's such deep, dear. And it shows them.
It's Sunday Morning on CBS. And here again is Jane Pauley.
Just one of the classic songs that's made producer David Foster one of the best in the business. This morning with Tracy Smith, he's our Sunday profile.
I'm everything I am because you loved me. Oh.
If I could make music like the Rolling Stones, that's what I would do. But when I lay my hands on the piano, what comes out, you know? And I love digging in the drums and like the big moan and the strings and that's what I love.
It works.
It does.
It works all right. For the past 50 years, David Foster has produced some of music's most iconic artists and most enduring moments, like this one in a Whitney Houston cover, something he calls the Boom and I. Foster also has an amazing ear for talent. He discovered superstar Celine Dion singing at a picnic. And years later, for a Grammys rehearsal, he plucked a 17-year-old Josh Groban out of high school to sing with her. But the hitmaker's latest project is all new and all him. It's the Tony-nominated musical Boop, as in Betty Boop, for which he wrote something like 50 songs.
What made you say, I need to do a Broadway musical?
I've always been very pragmatic about my career. And since the very early days, I always planned for when I wasn't hot anymore.
What do you mean you planned?
I planned it. In my head, it was like, that day's gonna come because nobody avoids that. Nobody. So Broadway for me was a place that I could write a song where you have to write a good song, but you don't necessarily have to write a hit song.
His Boop songs might not be hits yet. But in her Broadway debut, the Tony-nominated Jasmine Amy Rogers knocks them all out of the park.
Orange, orange, violet, indigo!
We were in the studio last month as they recorded the Boop cast album, and Foster was at the board, hanging on her every note.
That ball, those gloves.
Those gloves, that
Those
ball.
gloves, that shawl. Wait, this wig, that ball, those gloves, that shawl, that wall.
In my mind, I tell myself, I'm gonna get a better vocal out of this person than anybody's ever gotten before or anybody ever will get. And of course, it's not true, but that's my mantra going in because, you know, good is the enemy of great, and we all try to be great every day if we can. And
It seems the Canadian-born Foster was great from the start. He had perfect pitch at age 4, and his parents spent basically all they had to buy him a piano.
they took their life savings, $1,700, cashed in their bonds to buy me an electric piano and an amplifier so that I could leave Vancouver Island at 16 and go to England and try and be a rock star. It's just like, what were they thinking? I mean, why would they do that? You know?
They had faith in you.
I know.
Turns out Foster's true talent was getting the best out of people, like producing Barbra Streisand on her 1985 Broadway album.
Barbra Streisand has said that you are difficult.
Well, so is she. Yes, she did.
What happens in that situation if you have Barbra Streisand and David Foster, both who have a vision?
We certainly respect each other, you know, and we are friends. And, you know, if I called her at 3 o'clock in the morning from jail, first thing she'd say was, "How'd you get this number?" And then she'd be like, "Okay, I'll come and help." You know, she's a really good friend. One of the things I love about her is Barbra Streisand has never compromised, ever.
It's hard for me to say I'm sorry.
The guys in the supergroup Chicago learned that Foster doesn't compromise much either. He turned their 1982 album, Chicago 16, into a platinum masterpiece, but ruffled a lot of feathers with his My Way or the Highway producing style.
But if I did anything for them, I reminded them of their greatness, because they were and are great, but they had lost their greatness.
Did they grumble quite a bit as you were telling them what to do?
Well, yes. And by the way, it took 13 months to make the Chicago 16 record. The record before that had sold 100,000 copies. Our first record together sold 7 million.
Is he strong? Listen, buddy, he's got radioactive blood.
David Foster's also credited with discovering superstar Michael Bublé, but he says his own role in the music business is changing.
Do you think you'll ever have another top 40 hit?
Wow, what a question. No, I don't. You know, when I stopped making records 10 years ago, in my own little way, I felt like an athlete, like it was time to get out. And I haven't missed it for 1 second.
No?
No, not for 1 second.
He hasn't taken a break from performing. Foster tours with his wife, singer Catherine McPhee, whom he married in 2019. And cliche as it might sound, they make beautiful music together.
Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace.
Do you think about legacy? What's the David Foster legacy?
I don't really care about it.
You don't care? Why not?
I was acquaintances with one of my heroes, Henry Mancini. And his neighbor told me that when Henry was diagnosed with cancer and he was going to die, and he went over to his neighbors, and the neighbor said, "Yeah, but Henry, think of your legacy." And he said, "I don't give a about my legacy. I'd trade that for 3 months more right now." And so would I.
But for a guy who says he doesn't care about legacy, David Foster has built a lasting one. Each of the 16 Grammys on his wall is for a song you'll never forget.
Of course, winning's not everything, but it actually is. No, I mean, sometimes I get so annoyed when I walk in front of the Grammys. It's like, is that it? That's all you've got in your whole life? Is that? It's nothing. Honestly, I swear to God.
That's what those awards would say to you?
Well, I mean, sometimes. But honestly, I got rid of them for like 5 or 10 years.
And how were you able to bring them back?
I missed them.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is John Dickerson.
What happens when two stars align on the same stage? A lot, if it's Mia Farrow and Patti LuPone. Seth Doane caught up with them on Broadway.
If I had 1,000 hats, they'd all be off to Patti LuPone, and that's a fact. It's just a fact.
They're famous performers, but this is not acting.
First of all, Mia underestimates herself. I talk about her like she's not here.
Mia Farrow and Patti LuPone have been pals for 30 years.
What do each of you see in the other?
We are different. I'm sort of, I guess you'd say I'm pepper, she's sugar, or agave, or honey, and I'm paprika. Do you know what I mean? And
Is that how you see it, Mia?
I wouldn't have thought of the food element, probably, or the spice element, but that's not wrong. I don't know. I see it below the pepper or honey or agave, if you will, is a human soul that is immense and that I am drawn to. I really value Patti as a friend.
I look at the audience before I start the play because I want to see who I'm playing to.
As close as these two showbiz veterans are, they have never worked together until now. We met them recently during tech rehearsal for The Roommate, the two-person play opening on Broadway this month.
I think people are not used to seeing a theater in this state with all of these things around.
Do people know how much stuff there is?
I love to be in technicals. I love to see everybody at work like this.
Now 75, Patti LuPone made her Broadway debut more than 50 years ago. She's acted in this very theater and won 3 Tony Awards for roles in Evita, Company, and Gypsy.
We weren't necking. He kissed me once, and I kissed him once.
Mia Farrow, who's 79, got her start even earlier in Peyton Place in the mid-1960s. She's the first American woman to join the Royal Shakespeare Company and achieved cinematic immortality in the horror classic Rosemary's Baby.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
To this day, the best part I've ever been offered.
And you were 20 years old when you did Rosemary's
I think
Baby.
I was 21.
21.
Getting these two legends together took a little convincing and coordinating.
The directors each asking, you're saying, are you going to do it? You going to do it?
Yeah,
Is that really how it works?
Yeah. But we did call each other a lot because I thought it would be so exciting to work with Mia, whom I adore. Just to listen to Mia talk about anything is such an event that I would rather do that than rehearse. I would rather do that than eat lunch. We all feel that way. It's an amazing experience just to listen to her.
Who decided to do this first?
Mia.
You decided to do
But
it.
it was dependent on Patti doing it.
But they went to Mia first. And I'm actually a second choice. I don't even know I'm a second. I could be a third choice. I don't know.
Who was ahead of you?
Annette Bening.
I'm really glad it's Patti.
What's that like as an actor?
Well, I'll tell you. It's not comfortable.
How do you deal with it?
You accept the part because you need to.
The Roommate is a comedy about a New Yorker portrayed by LuPone who moves to the Iowa home of Farrow's character. Secrets and surprises abound.
I'm gay.
Oh, you. I mean, I don't have any problem with homosexuals.
Oh, good.
No, not at all.
It's one set, one act, and 90 minutes of lines to remember.
Who's better at remembering their lines?
We're both struggling.
Both struggling.
It's just the two of us.
They are icons and legends, but they're also consummate artists.
Playwright Jen Silverman says The Roommate gives audiences the chance to see the richness and depth of women of a certain age.
When was the last time you were on a date?
When I got married. And we all saw how well that turned out.
Who Silverman says are often rendered invisible.
It is harder for roles for women our age. And it's a pity because we come with a certain amount of wisdom, experience that is still sexy. Still very sexy.
Why do you see it as sexy?
Why do I see it as sexy? Because it is. Because we come with a power.
A Broadway legend just loses it on stage.
Last night, theater actress Patti LuPone grabbed a cell phone out of the hands of an audience member who was texting.
LuPone has used her stature to admonish audience members who peek at their phones.
It's something you abhor.
I think we all abhor it. I'm just vocal about it.
How is that as an actor?
It's distracting to the actor, but it's worse for the audience, you see, because we're trying to create a story, weave a spell.
Mia Farrow's own real-life story has always fascinated the public. At 21, she married Frank Sinatra.
Like Patti, he was Sicilian. But unlike Patti, he had a temper. But the essential person was so compassionate and shy and readily available, more than anyone I've ever known. It ended up being a friendship that lasted until he died.
Of course, she's also known for her relationship with Woody Allen. They made 13 films together. Mia Farrow and their adopted daughter, Dylan Farrow, accused Allen of molesting Dylan when she was 7. Woody Allen vehemently denies the charge.
Are you able to separate the experience as an actor in those films from the personal trials and tribulations that would follow?
Oh, yeah. And I completely understand if an actor decides to work with him. I'm not one who says, oh, they shouldn't.
Mia Farrow tells us she's at peace today and pretty content out of the spotlight.
But not many people have had Mia's life.
You have lived a fascinating.
I'm old, you know. I've you know.
Well, there are a lot of
old people that haven't lived your
who have
life.
had quite the same
Exactly.
set of experiences.
Exactly.
How does that factor into a decision to do something like this?
It was perhaps a feeling of maybe, is this it? Or might there be one last adventure?
What do you mean by is this it?
Meaning, never do anything else for the remainder of my days.
Had you thought that?
Yeah, I'm very good at doing nothing. It's a gift. I'm tremendously entertaining to myself. I have good friends. I have no complaints.
I don't have Mia's mindset. I wish I did. I'm not good not working. I don't know what to do in spare time. I get extremely depressed because I feel useless.
You have to stop thinking about yourself as basically dead. You are actually younger than most U.S. presidents.
As you look back on your careers, what is the measure of success?
I think it's longevity. I really do. I think if you're still working, if you're still vital, if they still want you to work at this time, that's success.
I agree. The fact that we're even working now, that to me is success.
I give a man big finish and then forget what came before. Just give a
You might remember the TV show Smash. With a title like that, it was perhaps destined for Broadway. Now it's there. And as Tracy Smith tells us, everyone involved is hoping it lives up to its name.
fade in on a girl with a hunger for fame and a face and a name to remember.
The new musical, Smash, is everything you'd expect, and maybe more.
I'll just have to forget the girl I used to love. Forget poor Norma Jean.
But like most big Broadway musicals, what you're seeing up on stage is only half the story. Smash Broadway is based on the 2012 NBC show of the same name. It was a cult hit and a show people love to hate.
Let me be your star.
A drama within a drama about the making of a Broadway show about Marilyn Monroe called Bombshell, with Megan Hilty and Katharine McPhee vying for the role of a lifetime.
It's all here and my heart's bleeding. Let me be your
And now, after more than a decade of fits and starts, here it is, a Broadway show based on a TV show about the making of a Broadway show. Confusing? Maybe, but it all seems to work.
Music starts playing, it's the beat of her heart saying, let me be your star.
The score for both versions of Smash really started here, with two guys and a piano.
Fade in on a girl with a hunger for fame and a face and a name to remember.
The music and words are from legendary composing team Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman.
How long have you worked together?
Since 1976. So as a...
Yeah. It was the Tall Ships, Legionnaire's Disease, and Son of Sam. That's when I met Mark.
In their long partnership, Shaman and Whitman have created things for Broadway, Hollywood, and sometimes both, like the musical Hairspray. They still remember the moment they came up with that show's big closing number.
And I suddenly was like, you can't stop an avalanche as it races down the hill. And it was just pouring out of me.
Hairspray earned Shaman and Whitman a Tony Award, but even after all their success, taking on Smash gave them that feeling they get before they start anything new, the fear of failure.
You two sing a little song before you approach every project.
Well, yes, we sing it almost every day, too.
Paralyzed with fear, paralyzed with fear. That's how we start writing any song. And we sing that for a day.
Because you're just looking at a white blank page, and it's just the most frightening thing on earth.
Music department, we're taking it from our leading ladies happy. Yeah?
To create a show within a show, it helps to have a rather experienced team, including renowned director Susan Stroman.
You know, you've won 5 Tonys. You've done this a long time. Are there lessons that you've taken from that apply to Smash?
Yes, I have. Everything that is in Smash, I've actually lived through.
The idea was to keep what was good from the TV show and reimagine the rest. The music stayed, of course, but the TV show was more of a drama. So with the blessing of producer Steven Spielberg, yeah, he does Broadway too, they made it funny.
This show will not end with Marilyn lying on a bed, naked and dead, wrapped in a white satin sheet.
Exactly. Nobody wants to buy a ticket to a depressing show.
I can stay home and be depressed for free.
There were also a few funny things they didn't plan. In the show, a main character was out and is replaced by an understudy at the last minute. And on the night of the very first preview, it happened for real.
One of the taglines for Smash is, behind every Broadway musical is a hot mess.
Yes, and that is absolutely true. You go in with the best intentions and something invariably goes wrong, and then everybody's on top of it to see how to fix it or which department can fix it.
And the right spices. When the stand-up bass slaps you in the face, well, it ain't my husband I'll embrace.
Robin Herder is Ivy Lynn, an actress who plays Marilyn Monroe and winds up assuming her character.
In this factory where dreams can come true, are you ready to make someone new?
It's like a sandbox, and I just get to play around in it and get to do all the things. I get to be crazy, I get to be mean, I get to be sweet, I get to be funny, I get to cry, you know, and I get to sing and dance, but it's everything.
I'll just have to forget the girl I used to love.
Herder's personal story adds yet another layer to the oh-so-meta show. She's a Broadway veteran who made her mark not as a singer, but a dancer. And beneath that effortless glamour is someone who's fought 20 years for this moment, even past her own personal breaking point.
Were there moments where you wanted to give up?
Yeah. The whole business, this musical theater business was really, really getting to me. I realized that was my clock ticking, and I was like, I think I need to be a mom. And I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I said to my husband, I think I want to have a baby.
She did have a baby, a son, Hudson, and then everything changed.
Having Hudson was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because that's when everything switched and everything clicked. I'm back and I'm achieving my dreams.
So protect them and take special care. Take care.
So, will it be a smash? One of the ads says, if you loved the TV series, it's exactly what you want. And if you didn't, we've changed everything.
Don't forget me.
But at its heart, Smash is really about collaboration, warts and all. And to these two lifelong collaborators, that might be a story that works for everyone.
What do you think the appeal is for somebody who hasn't seen the TV show?
I believe it's a universal feeling of watching a group of people trying to go to work. All right, what do we got to accomplish today? I think everyone can relate to that.
Let me